Ladies and gentlemen, please give a proper San Francisco welcome to one of the most popular movie and television stars of any era, an official icon of the swingin' 60s, the Rat Pack's favorite dame, an incredibly gifted actress, and the policewoman to whom we'd all gladly surrender. Please welcome the timeless, ageless, and all-around stupendous Angie Dickinson.
Thank you. That sure feels good. Thank you, Eddie.
Okay, my only disappointment. You didn't wear a skirt.
Who do you think I am, Lady Gaga?
No, I think you're Angie Dickinson.
Well, I wish I could wear skirts, but I don't wear skirts much anymore. The time has come to just watch them now instead of wearing them. Anyway, you don't know how good, you don't know how wonderful that reception makes me feel. And I'll try not to cry. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to spend a little time here. Okay, but we're going to start by talking about the picture that everybody just saw. Okay, we'll start with the killers. And everybody wants to know, how hard did Ronald Reagan actually slap you?
Ooh, I can still feel it. Do they all know you?
These people?
This is Eddie Muller. I think you're wonderful.
Ooh.
I think it's just great. Well, I guess I'll let you know at the end of this talk whether I still think you're great or not.
Okay.
But
the pressure is on. I hope I don't get performance anxiety.
I hope you do. Well,
let's adjust ourselves now.
President Reagan was such a sweet man, and every time and you know in movies we don't really hit. You all know that by now. And every time I met him, which was maybe 5 or 6 times after he became president, he would say, "I'm sure glad I didn't really have to hit you." And he would say it the same way and the same sweetness every time. He was really
He had
lovely.
a script, in other words.
Yeah, I didn't mean it to come off that way.
Okay, and of course, I mean, you were some pretty interesting men in this movie, right? I mean, when the film starts out, pretty hot and heavy with John Cassavetes, pretty interesting guy. What was it like working with him?
Wonderful. He was incredible because he was one of the actors in town that we all thought was a real actor. And he was very special, you know, the method acting and all that. And he was great, but he didn't really like acting anymore. He preferred the directing and the writing.
He was already making his own films at the time he did this.
Yes, and we didn't talk about that. I realize I didn't ask him much about those, but I don't now remember if they were before or after.
I think he had already started directing his own pictures by the time he
I
he did
think
this,
so
yeah.
too, but I don't know just which ones. But
Shadows and Minnie and Moskowitz and these
okay.
things, yeah.
Well, he was a terrific man, and he loved Don Siegel, who directed the movie, and so they got along great. But he wanted to direct, and that's understandable. A lot of actors, Robert Redford, I think now much prefers to direct, and several others, but that's who naturally comes to mind.
And of course, the man of the hour, Lee Marvin.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Lee Marvin?
Yes,
Yeah.
he is great. Well, he can sure take a hit.
Yeah, he could take a licking and keep on ticking, yeah.
He was a Marine all the way. He was so stoic and really strong physically and strong mentally. And I think he was a very sad man. And I think many of us have learned that since his movie career about how the performance that he had to make in World War II in the South Pacific and being shot incidentally really affected him. I think the war affects people so much more than we who are not in it realize. And I did not know it at the time, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, because he was carrying the shrapnel in his rear end all that time. Yeah.
But I think I think the war just made him sad, as it certainly Saving Private Ryan, I think, showed most of us that we never really knew before. But he was great. I mean, he's a great actor, and just a real Marine, all the way.
Okay, now I want to go back a little bit because we have something in our backgrounds in common, and that's that our parents were both in the newspaper business. Now, you're from North Dakota originally, correct? And was not your father a newspaper publisher in North Dakota?
Yeah, sounds good, doesn't it?
I'm in. Wait, what newspapers? What are those?
Well, where was your city?
Right here.
Yeah.
My dad worked for the San Francisco Examiner.
Okay. Well, my dad worked for the Cullum Messenger. Yeah.
And what was the population of Cullum?
The population of Edgeley, the Edgeley Mail, which is where we moved from Cullum, was 700.
Wow.
So when you say my dad was a publisher, he was a very witty man. He could really write, and he was adorable. And but it was a weekly, and a small town, and so I don't think we can compare my dad and your dad.
No, my dad did work for William Randolph Hearst.
Oh,
it's a
my,
little
yeah.
tiny bit different.
Yeah, it is. But he would have been good had he had a proper shot at it.
And is it true, I read somewhere, that you actually wanted to be a writer when you were young?
No.
That's not true. So that's just that media hooey, is that right?
That's another one of those. My sister said to me, "When did you graduate with a business degree?" I said, I didn't. Well, I read it on the Google or something.
Wikipedia, no doubt.
And I had to convince her that I didn't say that I had a degree in writing or whatever it was. So, no, it's not true. I wish I had, because I didn't know what I wanted to be. You know, I was born in 1931, and women were nurses and teachers and mothers. And you just didn't, you know, not many went off to college. It was more common to get married and have a family. But not me. And so I was a nice product of the late 40s to want to earn my own way and not have to depend on anybody. And I wanted to do something. I didn't know what it was. And so I just took a business course at Glendale College and Immaculate Heart College.
Had the whole family moved out from North Dakota, or
Yeah,
just you?
we had all, no, we moved out in 1942 after the war broke out because there were jobs in California to be had. So practically all of North Dakota and the rest of the country moved to California.
All of Cullum, we know, moved out.
All of Cullum. So, but I was lucky because it was not a generation where you decided to be an astronaut or something that was very demanding. Not that being a nurse isn't, but you know, many professions now that just were never even thought of when I was getting out of high school.
And so how was it that you sort of broke into the business? Was that your intention? Did you set out to be an actress, or was it one of those accidental things?
It was accidental, and I was a secretary, and a damn good one, having gotten a semester at Immaculate Heart College and a semester at Glendale College, and I got a job. And while I was at the job, there was a beauty contest not far away. Thought, what the hell, why not? And went in and was one of the winners. And they asked me to be on their show that they were sponsoring. And I said, wow, I don't know. And I said, what does it pay? And they told me, I said, oh, that's nice. And I did my first job without any experience and met Frank Sinatra.
Really? So you...
It was the Colgate Comedy Hour.
This is like right out of the gate? This is
Out
your
of the
first
gate.
gig?
My first thought, even.
And Frank Sinatra is there?
And he's the guest star on the show that I was asked to be on and said yes. And he was rehearsing a song with Jimmy Durante as I walked into my rehearsal time where they told me to go and what time to be there, and that's who was there. Wow. And it was right after his breakup with Ava.
What exactly are you inferring here, Angie?
That he was kind of nice.
I see. So this thing with Frank Sinatra predates Ocean's 11 by a considerable amount of time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a nice long history. But I kid you not. I had no designs on him. But he was, that thing that made him one of the greatest stars of all time was magical. And I just said, boy, this is for me. Of course, I didn't realize not every show had Frank Sinatra on it. So I went to acting school to make sure I had the goods, or at least could be respectable. And I convinced myself I could probably do all right, and I did all right.
And
Thank you.